You enrich your life and grow your business with Bitcoin, the hardest money on planet Earth. I'm your host, Josh Friedeman, and our guest today is James Wong of NiHowdy. He has a prescription drug card that saves you money, but also gives you a percentage back in Bitcoin. I'm excited to talk with him about that today. Before that, today's show is brought to you by Linkster, the premier Bitcoin-focused advisor for businesses, institutions, family offices, and high net worth individuals. Linkster secure your future with Bitcoin, as well as Velas Commerce, where the future of business technology meets Bitcoin. Reach out to Velas Commerce to integrate Bitcoin into your cutting edge website, seamless mobile app, or custom software. Visit velascommerce.com. Also, talk to you last episode about Farmer Bill's provisions. This right here is their bison biltong. If you want grass-fed beef or bison biltong, which is essentially is very similar to beef jerky, I highly recommend you check out Farmer Bill's Provisions. This is not something where I have an affiliate link or anything like that, but I did recently see that they have some bison sticks they're just releasing, and I think for every $50 purchase or more, you get one of these packs of bison sticks with every purchase. So definitely check out Farmer Bill's Provisions if you want a great healthy snack for your post-Thanksgiving snacks. So we're going to welcome up James here to the podcast. James, welcome.
Hey, Josh. Thanks for having me.
So I like to start off every single interview with a few questions that help us to get to know you a little bit better and give us some insight for our own lives. You ready for these?
Yeah, let's do it.
When and how did you first learn about Bitcoin?
Oh, man. College. I first found out about it. My roommate was on the Silk Road and was like, hey, just check this out. And I started to figure out, what is Bitcoin? I thought it was just a digital gift card at that point in time. But, I really started diving deep, I would say in 2017, 2018 about Bitcoin. And I read Satoshi's white paper and I was just blown away by the whole thing.
Question number 2 is this: what's an insight or fact about Bitcoin that you wish everyone understood?
For everyday people, I would probably say Bitcoin is the next TCP/IP for financial transactions. It's the next big thing. For businesses, the insight I'd probably share is only 2 to 3% of this world owns Bitcoin, and of that 2 to 3%, it's probably still a really small number that use it to transact on a daily basis. So I'd probably say, just keep that statistic in mind in the very beginning as you build out your business and have something that you intertwine with Bitcoin.
So if I were a normal person and I asked, well, what in the world is TCP/IP, how would you respond to that?
That is how computers talk to each other. That's pretty much the protocol where, you receive emails, you go on someone else's website. That's pretty much the gold standard protocol that we use.
Excellent. So question number 3 is, what's the Bitcoin resource you most recommend to other people?
This one's a little bit more of an advanced topic, but I would say Soft War by Jason P. Lowry. I thought it was really cool that he talks about power projection theory and how essentially Bitcoin could essentially be the next cyber warfare kind of area. So I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it definitely, people have strong opinions about the book and the concept. Did you buy a copy of the book by any chance?
I did. I still have a copy.
Okay, because those things are going there. You could make quite a bit of money by selling that copy if the prices online are to be believed.
Yeah, I think so. The book is banned. They don't. It's not released anymore. You can't buy it on Amazon. But I think the book, I see it on eBay go for about $30,000. I think the highest sell I saw was like $2,000. So
yeah,
that's pretty funny, at least to me.
So question number 4 is this: beyond Bitcoin, what is a resource, tool, or idea that's been helpful to you or your work at NiHowdy recently?
Yeah, I think the idea of orange pilling someone is very difficult. It takes 7, 8 different conversations, possibly a year, to get someone interested into Bitcoin. But I find the best way to get have people understand about Bitcoin is to give it away for free, and that's essentially what we're doing at NiHowdy. Basically, everyone in the industry collects drug rebates, but it never goes back to the customer. We give it back to the customer when they get their prescription refills.
Mm. Now we have our final, what we call our arbitrary but insightful question, and it's this: as a general life principle, is it better to ask why or why not?
They're both pretty important questions, but I have to lean probably towards saying focusing on the why is much more important. this seems like a glass half full versus a glass half empty kind of question to me. But I think if you're generally always asking why, you're much more optimistic about things working out. You're always focusing on a solution oriented kind of approach.
Hmm. So before we get to the rest of our conversation with James, I want to share with you a little bit about today's sponsors. Linkster is a premier Bitcoin focused advisor catering to businesses, institutions, family offices, and high net worth individuals. They merge your unique financial goals and needs with Linkster's Bitcoin expertise to craft your own sustainable plan to preserve and grow the value of your hard earned profits and retained earnings. At Linkster, it's not just advice, it's tailored execution. Connect directly with the founder by visiting linkster.com. That's LYNCSTER.com. Linkster, secure your future with Bitcoin. Today's episode is also proudly brought to you by Velis Commerce, where the future of business technology meets Bitcoin. As we journey through the era of Bitcoin and its transformational impact on businesses, there's one name that stands out: Velis Commerce. Whether you're looking to build a cutting edge website, a seamless mobile app, or custom software, Velis is your go to team. They've been diving deep into the world of Bitcoin since 2014, making them one of the most experienced groups for integrating Bitcoin and Lightning payments into a variety of digital platforms. What really sets Velis Commerce apart is the wealth of knowledge they bring to each project, ensuring your project success from day one. Their team understands the nuances of Bitcoin and makes sure that your business stays ahead of the curve. And for all business Bitcoinization listeners, Velis Commerce is offering a free consultation to kickstart your project the right way. So, if you're ready to future-proof your business in the coming age of hyper-Bitcoinization, head over to veliscommerce.com or reach out on Twitter at veliscommerce. Let's make sure your business thrives in the Bitcoin era. All right. Well, James, today we're here to talk about NiHowdy. If you would share with us a little bit about the business, then we can kind of get into the whole industry that you're looking to, in some way, disrupt. So, what is NiHowdy, and why did you start it?
Yeah, so NiHowdy is basically a prescription savings card. We pretty much negotiate drug pricing on behalf of all our customers who need to buy medications out of pocket. What makes us really cool is that we pass back Bitcoin back to our customers completely for free. Um, Pretty much the entire industry benefits from drug rebates. It just never goes back to the everyday individual like you or me. And I said that's pretty disgusting. There needs to be a way to solve that, and I think Bitcoin's a great utility for doing so.
Mhm. So I'm curious how people benefit, how the industry benefits from these drug rebates, and why aren't, because I've seen drug cards, prescription drug cards in the past. I've gotten one in the mail randomly, and they say, "Hey, use this, get money back." How does that work? And where, if people aren't using a prescription drug card like that, where do those rebates go?
Yeah, so pretty much for prescription rebates, I mean, I can speak from being a personal pharmacy owner. I used to get rebate checks from manufacturers every single month, but again, this doesn't get passed back to the patient. Manufacturers are trying to incentivize pharmacies to essentially put their product on the shelf and to dispense it. So that's a really big issue within our system. Our state and federal government are the largest recipients of drug rebates. And again, if you look on every financial statement of every publicly traded company, you can see that drug rebates are a really big thing. But yeah, I mean, going back to howdy, these drug rebates, we want to pass it back to the customer. It's a very nominal amount, but sort of the vision I have here is that Bitcoin can essentially solve for out-of-pocket prescription costs if it appreciates to something of tremendous value in the future.
So maybe if we could take a practical example of this, it may or may not
Sure.
be a specific drug, but what would it look like? Let's say, I purchased this prescription drug. What does the rebate portion look like, and also where does that extra Bitcoin come from?
Sure. I mean, we do collect, fees from pharmacies and manufacturers. So a portion of that, if you're buying a $10 drug, your rebate back to you as a customer would be 3%, which is roughly like 30 cents. So we collect that on behalf of the customer once they do ring up a transaction at the pharmacy, say it's at CVS, Walgreens, or Rite Aid, and we pass back a portion of that to the customer.
And so then the question is, do people want a prescription card that provides USD or Bitcoin, right? Because there are cards out there that do provide a percentage back in fiat. Is that
There's a
correct?
few. There's a few, but the minimums there would be like $25 in order
Mhm.
to be paid out. So you would need like thousands of, or I shouldn't say thousands, but you'd need quite a lot of different prescriptions to be filled before you can even receive that, I guess, fiat incentive or reward.
Mhm. So maybe for those who don't understand, I think a lot of Bitcoiners get why Bitcoin is superior in this type of instance. But what is it that makes Bitcoin better and more feasible for getting rewards back to individuals?
Comes down to two things. The first is transaction fees. It's very low if you're doing this on the Lightning Network. If you're batching transactions, your transaction fee is like 1,000th of a percent. If you're a business, like how do I give you like 30 cents back to the customer? Postage is already like 35 cents. And if I were to Venmo you as a business back to an individual, I mean, it costs anywhere from a quarter to $1.50 per transaction. So that's not feasible. But I think the really cool part here is, Bitcoin's an asset and it has the potential to appreciate in value. A lot of people like to say number go up. That's kind of what they look at. But I do believe, having 30 cents today of Bitcoin could be worth, potentially $30 later in the future. And that's, a great way to solve out of pocket prescription costs.
Now, on your website, you have this little feature. I don't know if this is something that you've created or you've imported it from somewhere else to your website, but it's like if you had $3 or however many dollars of Bitcoin back in this year, today you could purchase this really expensive thing. What is that? Because I think it'd be really neat for people to go to NiHowdy.com. That's NiHowdy. Uh, to just check it out, to give people a perspective of how a little bit of Bitcoin today can make a big difference in the future. Can you tell us a little bit about that feature on your website? Because it's a really neat thing. I wish we did see more places.
I actually call it the FOMO feature. So again, I think putting in contrast of how much Bitcoin was worth back then versus like how much it's worth now, and kind of showing the customer like, hey, look, potentially if you didn't spend like $10 on say cosmetics, that $10 today in Bitcoin would be worth something else. So we're trying to show the similar examples of, look, 30 cents of Bitcoin today might not be a lot, but hopefully this turns out to be something that's pretty grandiose and amazing for the customer. Possibly you can buy you a car in the future. I don't know, but Bitcoin's um, number will be in the future. But I do believe it's very disruptive technology, and there's a lot of price discovery to be had.
hmm So I want to go back to Knee Howdy in a little bit, but before we started this live stream, you mentioned that it would be worth talking about the Inflation Reduction Act and how that might influence prescription drugs. So I don't quite know the direction we're going to go here, but you're someone who has the experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and for you to share it with the audience.
Yeah, so the Inflation Reduction Act was passed recently by Congress. It basically allows Centers for Medicare and Medicaid services to reduce their drug spend. So every pharmaceutical company is essentially going to be taking a 30% haircut on all of these different drugs. That's great for Medicare as an entity and probably as a taxpayer. But the problem here is all these drug rebates from these pharmaceutical manufacturers, they're going to be reduced to every state Medicaid program and to every large employer. What does that mean? It means that everyone in the next 5 to 10 years is going to have a higher deductible, a higher copay, a higher share of cost, and that possibly means your drug isn't going to be covered anymore. The other part of the Inflation Reduction Act is it allows Medicare to claw back any drugs that go over beyond the CPI when it comes to drug price increases annually. So if I'm a new manufacturer or new pharmaceutical company that has a drug that's going to be put onto the market, I have to place my drug at an exorbitantly higher price than what I would normally place it at. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to end up seeing a lot of people spend more on out-of-pocket prescription costs. And there's again a lot of different prescription service card providers out there. GoodRx is one of the largest publicly traded companies. And if you didn't know this, you can actually look at their financial statements. They're a publicly traded company. They make about 500 to 800 million annually, all based on out-of-pocket prescription expenditure. For me as a founder, I just found that like absolutely disgusting. There has to be a better way to do this. And again, I think providing people with Bitcoin as as a purchase incentive or as a drug rebate back to the customer, it's a great way of sort of tackling this field.
Yeah. So where are you right now as far as the business goes? Are people using this? Are you still kind of in the development phase? Like if people wanted to get a knee howdy prescription drug card right now, could they go and sign up for one?
Yeah, so our membership is free. We actually have a working MVP right now, so you can go to one of the 35,000 pharmacies that we're networked with in the United States. That's like CVS, Costco, Walgreens, Rite Aid, and yeah, it's completely free. You can go to our website, you can look up drug pricing, you can see who's in our network, and essentially, if you do have a transaction through NiHowdy, you'll see that your transaction come through, and you'll see how much Bitcoin you'll be eligible to receive from us. As of right now, we've had sales in, I want to say, about 8 different states. I've done zero marketing on this. It's all been word of mouth, so it's been pretty exciting. I don't know anyone in Kentucky. I don't know anyone in Illinois. So it's been really cool to just see, the impact of this. And I think being able to see if this solves for out-of-pocket prescription costs, even for one person, I think that'll be like the dream for me.
Well, this is certainly an idea that needs to get spread out more because if nothing else, there are a lot of Bitcoiners that could benefit from this that would be very happy to begin using a card like this. I do think that it's a great way to begin getting a little bit of Bitcoin into the pockets of people who don't own any at all. And to your point earlier, kind of that widget on your website, you can really, if you just get a little bit of Bitcoin now, it could be worth a good bit in the future. And if not, then, it is what it is. But I think that a lot of people who have spent much time understanding Bitcoin have a strong belief that Bitcoin's greatest price appreciation is not over.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really important to onboard as many no coiners as we like to call them in this industry. The only way to really do that is just by giving them free Bitcoin. The worst is going to happen is Bitcoin goes to zero, but hey, look, we've already saved you money on your prescriptions. Normally, this revenue would have been received by the largest publicly traded company, GoodRx. So you can either take the value for yourself or you can give it back to the shareholders of GoodRx.
Yeah, yeah. Is this a lucrative business model? Because there are other companies doing similar things that are taking a lot of money for themselves. It seems like you're giving a chunk of money back, so you don't necessarily. I'm just curious to know about how profitable the business model is for you. Obviously, it's easy to scale something like this, and if you scale it large enough, it's going to be you'll be making some money. But from the business owner, the founder side of things, how do you look at the profit opportunity for NiHowdy?
So I'm a pharmacist by trade, so naturally I'm really good at the pharma industry. So this idea of like, there's a lot of middlemen in almost like every industry, whether it's travel, whether it's food,
Mhm.
gas, there exists a middleman and they extract a lot of value away from the customer and a lot of value from the service providers. What I'm testing in this model to see is like, look, will this work in pharmacy? And if so, can this be applied to other adjacent industries where we're rebating back Bitcoin to our customers or to back to our service providers? Being in the skilled nursing facility business, we used to work with US Foods. They take a lot of value and effort away from food vendors or the farmers. And they take, a massive amount and they charge, skilled nursing facilities, hospitals, schools a lot for that produce. But I think there's a way to, sort of address that and say, hey, look, we can make other markets more efficient with drug rebate or not drug rebates, but Bitcoin back as an incentive.
Mhm.
But one product we'll be releasing, I want to say next year. It's actually going to be called Meowdy. So as the name sort of suggests, it's actually drug rebates for pet prescriptions.
So I'm curious, like where does the name like why did you come up with Knee Howdy? I'm guessing it's Knee Howdy, but like why Knee Howdy and how far are you going to take this ridiculousness?
It's a meme, right? I think people love memes. But a little bit about myself. I am Chinese American. I'm actually fifth generation, so I'm very Americanized. And this is a shout out to the San Jose Discord group of friends. But they always say "ni howdy" to me because of just sort of how Americanized I am. And I knew as a new company name, I didn't want to name it something drug, something RX. It just sounded so boring and generic. So I said, look, if I'm going to take a company name for the next 5, 10 years and promote it, I'm going to choose something I love and enjoy. And at least I
Hmm.
find it kind of funny for myself. So that's how I picked Me Howdy. And I
Excellent.
figured, play on words after that.
Yep, for sure. So maybe we could. I feel like people listening to this probably have a good sense of the business and whether or not it's natural fit for them or someone they know. Certainly, if you're a Bitcoiner, either adopt this if it's relevant for you, or recommend it to someone that you know and love, family members, friends, as a way to potentially help them get their first Bitcoin. That said, I think it would be very interesting for people to hear a little bit about you. You mentioned that you were a pharmacist, and I know you have a bit of a story about what happened to your business, and so maybe would you mind sharing a little bit about your background and some of the things you've experienced that have maybe kind of gotten you to this point?
Yeah, so I've been a pharmacist for quite a while. I've actually been practicing in the field since the 90s. I know I look pretty young, but I grew up in a family full of pharmacists. So they'd always take me to work, every weekend after school, every day. And so I sort of like, understand the industry really well. I've seen it change throughout the last couple decades. But a common experience I had when having my own pharmacies was that I'd always have a lot of people come in and they would bring in 5 or 6 different medications and say, "Hey, look, I only have $100 or I only have $50. What can I take? And if I can't afford all these medications, what can I like go without?" And that sort of killed me as a pharmacist. It's a very common experience that a lot of pharmacists or that are practicing in the community will come across, and that always sort of bothered me. I would only be limited to helping out the people local to my area in San Jose. And I was thinking like there has to be a much more scalable model where we can help out everyone in the United States. And that's kind of how I started NiHowdy. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've been pharmacy for quite a while.
So you mentioned earlier, kind of the network. You mentioned some big brands, CVS.
Yeah.
You mentioned Walgreens. I think Walmart as well. But if someone gets their prescription drugs from one of those places, are basically all CVS's going to be accepting this NiHowdy card, or is it really a kind of a case by case basis?
No, that's so we're in network with all CVS's
Okay.
across the United States.
Are there any I know there are some, like, regional stores, but are there any kind of major stores that where people would buy their prescription drugs that NiHowdy is not currently accepted that you're aware of?
There is one store, but I don't remember the name, and this was in Palm Springs, California. I would probably say it's more of a regional store, not
Mhm.
a national. So I'd probably say, there's some limitations here. There's about 70 to 80,000 pharmacies in the United States. We're only in, I would say, a little less than half of them.
That's great though. I mean, I
Mhm.
if people are going to a place right now, they could probably easily switch to another local place, assuming they're kind of in a, not like a small town with a single pharmacy. There are probably places that you could switch to and still use the NeHowdy card. Are there any, I know you're going to be excited about the product, but are there any downsides in signing up for a card? Like there's no membership fee. People may not be buying prescription drugs all that much, but is there a reason that people wouldn't go ahead and get this card for when they need it?
It's completely free. The reality is everyone's going to need a medication at least once in their life, whether it's for, antibiotic for a cut, or maybe they're sick and they need cough syrup. The great thing about us is our membership is completely free. And if you want to have other, I guess, family and friends on that, um, potentially you're able to earn Bitcoin back on their prescription refills as well. We also
Very
work with other businesses, nonprofits as well. So anytime they're signing up employees and they don't have a robust, health plan because maybe they're still in a vesting period, that's sort of where we come in and say, "Hey, look, we want your employees to be happy, but we also want to give them some sort of material benefit here." And the great way to do that is by giving Bitcoin back to your employees.
Mhm. And how much information would someone need to provide in order to get to have the Knee Howdy membership?
It's very minimal if you just want to sign up and just get a free membership ID. If you do want to withdraw, there's a whole KYC process. And of
Mm,
course, we're mandated to provide that. And our payouts right now, you will have to have a Coinbase account. That's essentially how we pay out our Bitcoin at the end of the day.
we gotta talk about that, see if there's a way to get you, somewhere else besides Coinbase. But, I love what you're doing here. I'm very excited to see how you'll grow in the future. Are there any final thoughts, whether it's like strategic, tactical approaches to using the card, or simply something you'd like to leave the listeners with?
I'd probably say that, Bitcoin is definitely the future here. I probably speak to more entrepreneurs in this sense, but this is going to be the next big revolution, the next big thing that's out there. And I really hope that you sort of incorporate Bitcoin in your business, whether it's a payment processor system or something that's out there. because it's going to be really huge.
Hmm. And where can people go to keep up with you as well as NiHowdy and its growth?
Sure. Our website's NiHowdy.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, James Wong. I'm also on Twitter, The Simple Doctor. That's
Mhm.
it.
Excellent. I don't think that I'm following you yet over on Twitter, so that needs to change. But James, thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you having me.
All right, everyone. Well, that ends today's live stream. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I'm going to be at Central Time, that is. I'm going to be interviewing someone who's the Bitcoin director at a Bulgarian football or soccer team, if you prefer that term. They've just begun to accept Bitcoin and incorporate it into their branding and providing some Bitcoin education. I'm looking forward to learning about it a little bit more myself, but they're one of the few teams in the world that's begun to adopt Bitcoin. I'm very excited to learn more, and I encourage you to drop in at 8 a.m. if you are interested in learning more as well. That said, thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving week.